Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to lecture 25 of AAA Audit of Performance Information in the Public Sector. This is the only lecture which talks about public sector, remaining is for the private sector. But the principles, the structure, most of the things are very similar to what you have come across with few differences for the public sector. Here we are going to go through public sector requirements, performance audit, performance information, planning and audit, procedure, reporting, usefulness, measurability, and reliability. The three characteristics that is needed for information. Coming to the overview. Okay. So we are going to define performance information and performance auditing. There are two types of auditing. Financial statement auditing we have covered. In the previous lecture, we have covered social, sustainability, and environmental auditing. Here we are going to go through performance auditing. Then for audit, it is procedures and reporting and consideration. It needs to be useful, it needs to be measurable and relevant. So from the point of exam, this syllabus is only for those students who are going to see the international variant of the syllabus. It is not relevant for UK syllabus, okay? And we are covering international variant only. So that means it's relevant for you. And concepts that you have covered here are very similar to the concepts covered in the previous lecture. That is social and environmental reporting. Okay. Now, public sector organizations, we know they are subject to greater regulation. Okay. That means their reporting requirements also will be more intense, more extensive than the private sector firm. Why? The reason is because public sector organizations are funded by taxpayer money. Okay. So they are answerable, they are accountable to a lot of users, wider stakeholders compared to profit making organizations. There are two types of audit that are done in the public sector. One, financial statement audit, performance audit. Financial statement audit we have covered, we know our focus is on the performance audit. Okay, so performance audit means you are giving an assurance or an advice regarding the effective functioning of the operational activity. Okay, here also you need skills. For performance auditing also there are skills on how to plan, how to do risk assessment, how to collect evidence, how to report. Okay, there in the financial statements we were doing that planning, gathering evidence for financial statement assertions. Here we are doing it for activities of the organization. Okay, but there are some things which an external auditor of financial statement will not consider, that you, when you're doing performance audit, you have to consider. Okay, performance audits include performance information, value for money, and operational audit. Okay, value for money, economy, efficiency, effectiveness, the three E's. This comes for public sector, by the way. It's not there in the private sector. Okay. Now, performance information. What is this performance information? See, performance information is any information that is published by the public sector bodies. That means what is their objective, whether they have achieved those objectives or not. Okay. This information will have the same qualitative characteristics that a general purpose financial report will have. For example, those information also need to be relevant. That also need to be complete. That also need to be reliable. It needs to be neutral. It needs to be understandable. It needs to be prepared on a timely basis, accurate, and needs to be valid. External auditor, they might have a responsibility to report on this information also. They might. Now, let's go through some example of some public sector bodies with their performance measure. Okay, for different parts. Let's say for hospital. So for hospital, performance matters will be different compared to local council performance indicators. Okay, for hospital, it will be like to reduce death rate. Okay, so that customers does not have to wait too long in a queue. Then things like that, right? Then hospital patients will be more satisfied with hospital food. Okay, to increase that satisfaction. Come into local council performance indicator. Okay, this is about reducing the litters on the street. Okay, you can give a percentage also. Giving a percentage is even better. For example, by 7% or less than 7%. Then percentage of residents satisfied with the local environment. You want to increase that. So you can read it on your own. Things like that. Next, for police of performance, how do you measure a police performance? Based on the crimes that you have solved. Okay. Based on how he was able to reduce the re-offending rate. Re-offending rate means when someone is in a prison and when he's released, he again comes back to the same offense that he was that because of which he has been into prison. Again he comes. So that is known as re-offending. So the purpose is to reduce that re-offending rate. Okay. Public should feel more safe. Okay. Crimes are reduced in a certain area. Okay. Things like that. So here performance measures such as these are important to various stakeholders. Various stakeholders are relied on this performance measure, not just shareholder. One is the government. Why? Why? Because tax, government is collecting tax on that. So they want to see. And also they want to see that money that they are providing to the relevant departments are used effectively because they are using taxpayers' money. Okay. Second, the one who is going to use that service. For example, a patient might want to see which hospital is giving the best treatment. Right? They will compare this. Third, users of the service. Same thing we have told. Okay. Now planning. So the planning stage, obtain an understanding of the information, how it will be collected, how it will be reported. Then make inquiries with management to understand the data and how it is collected. Establish materiality. Yes, you might be thinking why materiality? Materiality comes everywhere, whether it is private or public sector. Then system. Go through the system in detail. Materiality for non-financial information. Yes, this is an issue. For example, okay, for performance measures like let's say performance measure in a hospital is to reduce mortality rates, right? Because this matter, see there are so many non-financial information, right? So many performance measure for hospital, but one or two will be material, not everything is material. One is mortality rate. This is highly sensitive, therefore it is material. For example, if one of the performance information of hospital was to increase the satisfaction of the food that is served in the hospital for patients, that is not so material. Even if the food is not served that good, still patients will be there. Okay, patients will be admitted to that hospital, but it is based on the mortality rates. That's very significant. Next, so setting materiality for non-financial, yes, it's more difficult than financial information because different assurance providers might come to different conclusion also. What someone might think mortality rate is not material, some might think mortality rate is material. Accordingly they will give assurance. Next, so to overcome this issue, okay, okay, is to disclose the materiality level used in the assurance report. What is that materiality level that has been used? Disclose it in the report so that no matter whoever comes, whoever the assurance provider, they will come to the same conclusion. Okay, that means a consistent approach should be used. Whoever is the practitioner who is giving the opinion or assurance. Procedure. Okay, procedure to gather evidence is same as a normal audit. For example, here also you inspect suspecting documents, then here also you inquire management, here also you perform analytical procedure. Okay, compare with the previous year or similar organization. Obtain a written representation from management about accuracy and completeness of information, and recalculate amount that is included in performance information. So let's go through the audit procedure for hospital performance measure. Okay, based on the measure we will be designing the procedure. Okay, so let's say if your performance is to reduce number of medical error. Okay, This will be the procedure. You have to inquire the hospital management of what medical error is. Okay, you can inspect the hospital record also, even the board minutes, to confirm the number of medical error. This is procedure if performance measure is medical error. You cannot use the same procedure if the performance measure is something else. That's why you have to link your performance measure with the procedure. Okay, let's say the second performance measure, reducing number of cases. Okay, then inspect hospital record for it, compare it with the previous year, improve satisfaction with the hospital food, review patients' feedback, and recalculate the average score that they have given and check it with the previous year. Next, decrease mortality rates. Okay, for this you have to inspect again hospital record for number of death, review board minutes because they might have evidence of unrecorded deaths also. Some deaths are unrecorded, and compare it with the previous year. Next, we'll be going through the reporting. So here they can give reasonable assurance or limited assurance. Okay, reasonable assurance will be positively worded, like in our opinion, number of deaths reported by the hospital is fairly stated. And if it's a limited assurance, nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe the number of deaths reported by hospital is not fairly stated. Now, so these are the content of the report: title, addressee, introductory paragraph. For example, which performance information they are measuring, reporting. Then the scope, which standard. For example, which standard are they following? If it's an whether it is an ISAE. ISAE means assurance engagement. Okay. Respective responsibilities of management and assurance provider. Limitations of the report. Summary of the work performed. Conclusion based on the work signature, date. Now, usefulness. These are the considerations that you have to take care of. You have to consider whether performance information is useful also or not. Okay, because if you see, this performance information is very common now. Okay, it government has introduced it. Okay, it will be there in the government target league tables. Okay, these are measures for public sector organizations to demonstrate their accountability to the taxpayer. That's why it has to be useful. Okay, so this information is reported to the relevant regulatory authority. It has to be reported to the relevant regulatory authority. Maybe it can be in the organization's website also, and it will be included in the annual report. Users of the information are able to access the performance of the government department. So when users see this information, they should be able to access the performance of the government. They themselves have to be able to access performance of government departments to tell which government department is doing good or not. They can choose which hospital to go for treatment based on the information. Next is measurability. Some measures are subjective. Okay. So that's why those measures can easily be manipulated also. Okay. Because managers will easily show that you have met the target, whereas in reality, it is not so. That's why this may lead for some organizations to include measures which are not relevant. They might include measures which are not relevant to their strategic aims. Right? That's why there's a risk. In this area, there's a risk. They are deliberately vague when they are composing performance measure, so that they can show they have met the target. For this reason, measures of the target may be difficult, and therefore it's difficult for auditor to either prove or disapprove. So what should you do? Whilst there are national performance measures in place with a place which all organizations of particular type will need to report, okay, still see, national performance measure every organization has to report. Okay, there's a type, but still each organizations will have their own performance objective which they wish to measure. You see, there's an inconsistency between different firms. Some firms will show this as a performance objective, some might show another. So inconsistency, difficult to compare. Okay, because on the same information, two different entities are using different criteria. to measure their success. Next is reliability. How reliable it is. Performance information. Okay. So better to give detailed criteria so that you can avoid different entities interpreting it differently. Okay. You can give this criteria in the assurance report itself, or you can give the link to the website which says the detail of the criteria or an appendix to the report. Only assurance process, okay, quality assurance process within the public sector compares the assurance provider's work and results to ensure the level of consistency, okay, between different firms, and give comfort to the users that conclusion that is drawn would be same irrespective of which assurance firm perform the work. Okay. And this predetermined standard and quality assurance process should improve reliability of performance information. So if you're having a quality assurance process in place, it improves reliability. It shows the user, no matter whatever the assurance provider, whoever the assurance provider is, conclusion will be same because their work is consistent no matter in whatever firm they do their work. So it's more reliable. Now we'll do two questions before we conclude this lecture. So there are two questions, test your understanding 1 and 2. One is there's not any case study given. Generally, they're telling you to suggest 3 performance measure for a treasury department and list audit procedure of the performance information to obtain evidence to support the figure. Second is explain the difference between performance audit and audit of performance information. They are two separate things, okay? Performance audit and audit of performance information are not the same thing. So first we'll finish test to understanding 1, okay? 3. So these are the 3. This is treasury department, government, treasury, it's government treasury department, okay? Performance measure for it. So one could be employment rate. The other one could be GDP per head of population. And you can select anything, by the way, okay? Out of this also you can have your own thing. If it's appropriate for it, you will get the marks. Public sector net debt as a percentage of GDP. What is the GDP of the population? What is the employment rate? And what is their debt for each person in the population? Okay. Now, if it's a performance measure, if it's GDP per head, what would be the audit procedure? Where you need to go? You need to review department reports for GDP and population. Department will have number of population as well as the GDP also. You can calculate GDP per head equally. Second audit procedure could be recalculate GDP per head to verify the figure reported. You yourself recalculate. Employment rate. This also number of people employed and calculate this as a percentage of working population. Okay. You can review the department reports for it. Most of the things you will get it from the department report only. Even this one, review department report, review department report, review department report. For level of debt and calculate this as a percentage of GDP. Something very easy. Okay. So these are procedures that are assuming a limited assurance engagement. How do you know that? Because if it's a reasonable assurance engagement, okay, then you need to perform test of controls as well to evaluate the systems and process that is used to collect this information. You will be testing the controls also. Then it becomes a part of reasonable assurance. Now, since you are not controlling that, testing the control, only evidences to prove it, prove GDP per head, net debt as a percentage of GDP. That's why it's a limited assurance. Test your understanding too. Difference between performance information and performance audit. So if it's a performance audit, you will be dealing with 3 E's. Remember, performance audit and 3 E's, there's a connection. 3 E's stands for economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. That means it shows value for money. how well public sector has used the public fund. This is the meaning of it. Economy stands for having the lowest cost for the quality. Efficiency means achieving the maximum with less input, and effectiveness means doing the right thing, achieving the objective. And performance information audit has to do with this, because this word has the you have to see the qualities of the information: accurate, valid, reliable, complete. You have to see against this. Okay, basically you are saying whether so every public sector organizations will have some target. These targets are set by a government. Okay, this is known as performance information because it checks the organization's performance. So you will see whether you have met the target or not. Here, it is not about meeting. Here, you will see whether value for money is there or not. You will see the economy, efficiency, effectiveness. You will check all these three. Here, it is about whether targets has been met or not. Okay. So public sector public information, sorry, performance information, you have to see whether it's accurate, valid, reasonable, reliable, and complete. So that's it for performance information in the public sector. Definition is you need performance information, that is target that government have set for each public sector body. Then performance auditing, the three E's: economic efficiency and effectiveness. And audit, you need the procedure, you need the reporting, and considerations are usefulness, measurability, and relevance. Okay, so thank you for watching, and we have covered the entire AAA syllabus except one that is left, that will be in the upcoming lecture, which is going to be the last lecture for AAA, that is current issue. Okay, so we have covered all, whether it is audit of financial statements, audit in the public sector, environmental audit, relevant specific assignments, planning stage, going the after reporting event, everything from planning to reporting we have covered. So make sure now do all the relevant questions on all the areas. At least one question on each area needs to be attempted. So I shall see you in the next lecture, that is last lecture for AAA. Thank you for watching and take care.